Hello and welcome to Tuesday's ESPN FC Live. Mark Donaldson, Dallin Cuff, Luis Miguel Echegaray. The Dutch are through, winning by 3-0 against Romania. Dallin, let's start with your thoughts on this one. In the end, it was probably a fair reflection, the scoreline on the game. However, with 10 minutes to go or so, it was only 1-0, and you kind of thought, all these chances the Dutch have had, maybe, just maybe, there was a sting in the tail. But there wasn't.
And there was not, but it definitely seemed like that could happen. Obviously, in this tournament, the games have gone to the wire, and there's been drama late, so that could be there. But they put it to bed. This was by far the Dutch their best performance of the tournament. They didn't take all their chances. They had a boatload of corners, and they didn't capitalize on everything, but they got it done in the end. I will say Romania, acquitted themselves well, especially early in that game. And if their final third product was better, this may have been different. There were a couple. Especially transition sequences in the first half, and then one at the beginning of the second half, where just indecisive and making the wrong decision late didn't lead to a good chance where it looked like there could have been something on for them. So didn't exactly play their best game. Credit the Dutch. They did, and they finished enough chances, and they're moving forward now to take on Austria or Turkey.
Which is on later today. The final place in the quarterfinals up for grabs, kicking off in around an hour. So, LME, did you expect more from Romania? Because I know they were top of Group E, but that was the group everyone finished with 4 points, and the Dutch finished third in Group D. Was this an easier game for the Dutch than you expected against the Romanians?
Yeah, I expected more from Romania. I mean, the game, as Dallin was talking about, it started well for Romania. The first 20 minutes, they were, pushing and trying to creatively enter that final third as the Dutch were getting accustomed to the rhythm of the fixture. But in the end, I think that what happened was this was the first time in this competition, at least, where Romania have faced such a creative team and such a force like Cody Gakpo, who, by the way, when he puts on that Netherlands shirt, my God, that's 3 goals, 1 assist already in the competition. I believe it's between him and Kylian Mbappe, who have the most goals in the last 2 major European tournaments. So that's pretty remarkable. But I think that Romania, from their angle, this is the first time where, and it was a bad timing thing, the first time they faced a stronger team, and the first time where Ronald Koeman's side finally woke up, specifically some individual performances. That's why Denzel Dumfries didn't play in the previous game. He started once again here, and I think it was a wake-up call for him. He played very well. Xavi Simons should have probably finished a couple of chances, definitely one of them. He was very creative. Malin, of course, scoring his 9th goal in the last 35 appearances for the national team. So everything was clicking for the Netherlands. As Dallin said, this was definitely their best performance. So in a way, it's kind of what I expected, but it also doesn't surprise me due to the fact that the Netherlands were the toughest opponent Romania have faced.
Yeah, look, the Dutch could easily have scored more. They were a bit profligate in front of goal. They had a number of chances that they didn't take, a combination of poor finishing, some fortunate defending, and some good stops from the goalkeeper. But after their 3-2 defeat against Austria in their final group game, Dallin, this was not so much about getting the result, because they hoped for that, but they wanted to do so with a bit of flair, a bit of panache, a bit of style. Did they get that?
I think ultimately they did, because they did play good football. They just, as LME just said, there were multiple chances, we both said, that they didn't finish. But overall, they dominated the game. They controlled the game over an inferior opponent. Let's not sleep on Austria, by the way. I mean, I'm plus 750 to get to the semifinals. I say it every time. We talked about it before the tournament. That, I think, was a reflection of Austria being really good, and the Dutch maybe not their best, but Austria is good. And I think they still could make some noise in this tournament, and they will have that opportunity to do so. The Dutch played their best game. And I think this is the key for them is they do need to take these chances and be a little more clinical, because there were times, and Xavi Simons, a young player, but a couple times couldn't get the ball out from under his feet. And there were some great blocks and some couple good saves, but there were a number of times where this game could have been 5-0 or 6-0, basically, in terms of if they would have really been a little more clinical in front of the net. But overall, the performance was by far their best. You carry forward a positive vibe coming off a loss, to say the least. You finish third in your group. That literally does not matter now. You're focused on what's ahead of you, and the whole tournament is ahead of them. And they are, again, in the easier side of the draw. That left side is Germany, Spain, and Portugal, France. We know that. They had on that right side with a very beatable England team and a wide open situation here. They may play Austria again here in the quarterfinals if they can take care of Turkey. So this is everything to play for. They played well. They've got to feel good about it. And Ronald Koeman's got to be happy that some of his decisions made in the third game in terms of who played and didn't maybe yielded some results here, or some better effort in this game.
I think Romania helped the Dutch look good today, LME. But how good are they, given that they lost to Austria in their last game? And a lot of Dutch commentators And journalists in the Netherlands were saying, right, who's next? Because Ronald Koeman isn't the answer.
Yeah. And I was one of them even before the tournament started.
Well,
I mean,
well, so was I, to be fair here, but
yeah.
like,
No, I
it's
mean,
not fair. I'm not big on the Dutch.
obviously the question marks were there, right? And our very own
Mhm.
Fraser, even before the tournament started, said quite rightly that, also due to Frankie de Jong's absence in the midfield, there's so many open spaces in the midfield that when you face a good team, disciplined in possession, they're going to expose you. Like Dallin mentioned, Austria, now as they progress into the further stages of these knockout rounds, they're going to face teams that are better, specifically in the midfield. But to be honest with you, all credit it's due, because they're in the quarterfinals and the players woke up. And again, you have to talk about how Koeman was able to inspire some performances that were bad previously and now have improved. I go back to Denzel Dumfries. I thought he was great. And I think part of it was because he didn't start in the previous game. And I think that was a wake-up call, but he's not the only one. And I think that that's a key thing. My biggest issue with the Netherlands from day one has been take care of your chances. And I think today was the proof of the pudding. If you have 23 shots, 23, you can't just have 6 on target, specifically after some of those efforts. The Xavi Simons one where Dumfries sneaked the ball in to get inside the box and lay it to him. First time finish, boom, just make it happen. And I think already that's 2-0 before you can even blink. So what's going to happen once you get further in the tournament? You face tougher defensive lines. What are you going to do there? So the Koeman question marks remains for me. I don't see them winning this whole thing, but today was definitely an example of how much they have improved from the first game and how further they can go.
Yeah, as I told you guys off air before, but I'll share, Mark, before you sat down. I've got my brother texting me now how excited he is about his Dutch plus 1,600 to win the whole thing. That's just not going to happen. I don't think they're good enough. I didn't think they were good enough coming in. I don't think they're good enough now. Their draw sets up that they might find themselves in a semifinal easily or in the final. But are they capable of playing against the best teams in this tournament winning? That said, the one thing they do have is people always say, only as good as your last game. They do feel pretty good coming off those 90 minutes, relatively speaking, to how they played earlier in the tournament, especially when you look around this tournament. England survives. Portugal survives. France survives. Their local press, obviously, English press is crushing them. France is not the most supportive right now. What's going on there either? They've had to score a goal that was by their own player in live action. Like, that's remarkable. So all things considered, all that matters is surviving and advancing in this tournament, but you do want to feel better about how you played. Relative to some other big boys right now, they probably feel pretty good about themselves, at least, and where they sit within this tournament and within this bracket.
I'd be more comfortable with a 16-1 voucher on the Dutch if I'd done them each way, so 8-1 to reach the final, rather than 16-1 on the nose. But hey, that was available.
Your brother's not that smart, Mark. You know what's up. It's good.
LME, is Cody Gakpo a better player for his country than his club?
Yes, 1,000,000%. He's a different human being. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's not all down to him, because when you look at the Cody Gakpo of Liverpool, especially last season, the responsibilities that he has going forward are a little bit different, mainly if Darwin Núñez is playing right next to him, and then obviously all the attention goes to Mohamed Salah is in from on the other one. Here, the interesting thing is he has like acres of space on that left side. So he likes to cut in, and Romania, to be fair, allowed him to cut inside a lot. But here, he has acres of space in the counter, and he's not so much fallen to the whole responsibility of I need to score. He's a big creator. He got another assist. So for me, because of all the spaces that he's allowed to have with the Netherlands, he's a much better player. He's more confident. And he's not the only one. There's many players that once they put on that national team shirt are totally different for their club, and vice versa, of course, USMNT. So, I think that what you're seeing from Cody Gakpo right now is exactly what you want to see as a Dutch player. And Arne Slot, by the way, hopefully will be paying attention, and I'm sure he'll be doing a lot more next season for him.
That's a good point, Dallin, simply because 8 goals in 35 Premier League games last season for Cody Gakpo, and I think he's, 12 and 25 for the Dutch. Arne Slot will know exactly where Cody Gakpo should play to get the best out of him. Where is that for Liverpool?
Well, but it's not just the coach knowing it. The player confidence is such a massive thing, and I think we always kind of overlook it. Whether it's the highest level of sports or a high school kid, like you have to be confident, comfortable, and believe in what you're doing and where you're at. And when you start thinking, that's the worst thing an athlete does. It gets in your head, and your natural instincts, your honest, your true ability can be minimized. And I think that's what you see at times right now. Some of it's positionally. I think when he is out in space and left, and he's cutting in on his right foot, he's much more dangerous. How slot sets him up is important, but him coming in the preseason and believing that the coach believes in him, he feels that vibe, he feels that positivity, his confidence grows because he looks like a guy that enjoys his football, is confident with his team, knows exactly what is asked of him within his country when he's wearing that jersey, and he showed up in international tournaments time and time again. It looks like a different guy. How does that translate? How does he mentally keep that same feeling, that same vibe, that same belief, that same positivity? Some of it comes from the coach, some of it comes from the players, but it's got to come from within. And partially is, yes, where he plays on the pitch, but overall, he's got to be comfortable where he's at and believe that he can go be the same guy we see right now. And we saw in Qatar that he can do it, that got him to Liverpool, that he can do it right there. When the lights are the brightest, when it's the best league in the world, when it's scouting is so difficult, and when the coach is asking you to play in a certain system, in a certain manner, week in and week out, can he deliver?
LME, who would the Dutch rather face in the quarterfinals? Because there's one tie of the round of 16 still remaining. It's Austria against Turkey in just under an hour. And the Austrians have already beaten the Dutch. Is it as simple as saying they would rather face Turkey? Or given that it's a home game practically for Turkey with a number of Turks in Germany, what do you reckon?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. The hostile atmosphere, the support. But no, I'm still going with they'd rather face Turkey just because of what we're seeing. I mean, Dallin and I talked about it. Even before the tournament started, we warned everybody. Austria. They're a beautiful machine. Stevie Nicol talked about it as well. And you know, after winning 3-2 in the group stages, which was a really entertaining game, when you look at those stats, everything pretty much about the Netherlands suits what Austria want to do. They're going to press. And if you want to be creative going wide, they're going to not only press, but they're going to counter. So they're kind of going to fight fire with fire. I think Turkey, as exciting they have been in certain moments, and they obviously have such individual talent as well, they're not as well organized, not as well disciplined, not as well impressive going forward as Austria. So I would say that the Netherlands are probably going to watch this Austria-Turkey game hoping for a Turkish win, but I think it's going to be Austria all the way. And I think if it's Austria against the Netherlands, I have to go with Austria once again. This is a really impressive team here.
Dallin? You know, it'll be interesting about that too. If that Austria-Netherlands matchup happens, because Austria was a significant underdog in the group stage, and they won that game outright. It's still, we talked this off air too. Big footballing nations the odds tend to lean to them, because when people see that they are an underdog, or even if it's an even fight, if you will, they're going to lean to that bigger footballing nation. And that's kind of baked into some of these lines. So don't let that fool you if they're, plus 140 and Austria's plus 185. That number, when you look at the actual teams on the field, may be more equal. And as my mind and what LME just said, I'm taking Austria if that's the battle. I think they're going to want Turkey. Partially goes what he just said about the structure. Also, it's a very talented team, but a young team in terms of this international experience. And you have this stage, and if they win this game and they're playing in the quarterfinals, can they go up there and execute for that 90 minutes? Versus Austria, which is a machine, which is a lot of grown men that have played in a certain system, coached well by Ragnick, and they know exactly what they're doing. I think you'd much rather play a Turkish team that could be a little more up and down and could allow you to get up and down and play a little more in your comfort zone if you're the Dutch.
Yeah, I spoke about the Turks. I think there's 7 million Turks in Germany. It's not like the Netherlands need to get a Qantas flight round the world to get to Germany. They just need to turn east and keep going for the majority of the country, and that's them in northwest Germany. So their fans have been great. The Turkish fans have been great, but we've not yet had a surprise result. And it's interesting you mentioned that, Dallin, about the big teams tend to be the favourites. Just like pre-tournament, England were the favourites just due to huge money for them, patriotic money in the UK. But the smart money was on Switzerland against Italy. So yes, it was a bit of an upset as far as the odds were concerned, but it wasn't a surprise. So it leaves us with one to go. Austria against Turkey, and the Austrians are the favourites for this one. Do you give the Turks much of a chance, Dallin, to upset these odds?
I give them a chance. I'm going to ride with Austria, as we just said. It's not just, I'm not going to hedge the bet. We're going plus 750 to the semifinals. So I like their path. I love their draw. And I think in this game in particular, this is kind of what I just said about Turkey. They may struggle a little bit with how Austria is going to play. And Austria is they're going to counterpress. They're going to do their thing. And they're going to play in a in a manner by which they know exactly what they're doing. Where Turkey in this spot, in this opportunity, It's big for them. They will have great crowd support, but I don't expect them to be able to perform at the level to win the game. I do think you will see goals. They have been able to trade goals. They have been able to play and score. So the over 2.5 would be the play here. That is the favorite on this game. There's a little bit of juice on that, but that's where I would lean in terms of a game that we might see some goals. Today, this game got to the over 2.5 at 3-0 just in the end there on Daniel Mullins' goal, which only 2 of the 7 matches to this point have hit the over in regulation time. It's just 90 minutes, folks. The extra time does not count in terms of the actual number of goals and what happens in that 90 is what matters with your bets, unless you're betting an extra time bet specifically. That is different, or who to go through. That is different. So I think this game could hit the over 2.5, but these games have been rather cagey and obviously not a lot of goals, as 5 of the 7 hit the under.
When we come back, we will preview the quarterfinals and take a look at the odds currently and who represents some value. LME, Dallin, and myself, Mark Donaldson, return after these. Okay, England are still favourites. Are they the best team in the tournament right now, the ones that are remaining? No, they're not. Do they have the easiest pathway? Yes, they do, because they're on the other side of the draw. However, there's a lot of other decent sides on that half of the draw. Let's get into the quarterfinal matchups and the betting. So England against Switzerland. Let's start with that one. England will feel that they'll probably have to improve, but they'll feel they can beat the Swiss. However, Switzerland will feel, well, if England show up the way they've been playing, then we'll take some of them. Okay, LME, where's the value there?
I mean, listen, there is no, first of all, under 2.5 goals. I like that because I think it could be a tricky encounter. And I think England are going to find themselves having to defend more than anything else. Switzerland are everything England are not. They are completely confident of who they are. They pass the ball very well. They have a creative knowledge all the way from Manuel Akanji to Bril Mbolo. When they don't have the ball, they don't press the ball. They press where the ball is going. That's a big problem from England because obviously Gareth Southgate only has one plan A. He likes to play from the back and that's it. And Switzerland, they're going to love everything about that. Individually speaking, there is no doubt that England are the favorites, but I think this might be a real sort of hesitant performance back and forth with Switzerland possibly dominating a lot of that possession. And I like the idea that we won't see many goals. Maybe it might be 0-0 and then it goes into extra time. So I like that, the value there. But if you're asking me right now who I think is favored to win here, it's the Swiss and that beautiful man, Yakin, with his glasses. He looks like he could sell me some really nice sunglasses at your local mall. Like they're just a really good machine. England are the complete opposite.
I have to say, Dallin, that the nearly 2-1 for the draw certainly has some interest here for me. What about you?
That's that from terms of the match. In terms of that's where I would lean would be the 2-1 for the draw, or for Switzerland to go through. That's still plus money for Switzerland to qualify and beat England, essentially, whether it's in penalties, whether it's in extra time, or in the regular time. It means they get through. That's still plus money. The under 2.5 goals is LME side. I think this game is going to be tight. I think it's going to be incredibly cagey. That's why it's minus 210. It means you have to bet $210 just to win 100 to hit the under. Where there would be value is there are goal ranges on a lot of betting sites, including ESPN Bet. 0-1 on ESPN Bet is plus 150. So 1.5 times your money if we have a 0-0 game again in 90 minutes, or a 1-goal game in 90 minutes. Or you go the 2-3 range and you kind of middle it. You're middling the over and the under, and that's even money. I would look at either one of those plays versus laying that much of a price on the under 2.5. There's just not much return coming there. Although I do think that's going to hit If you're a heavy hitter, you want to throw a lot of cash there, I think that's where you're at. But I think if you're looking for a little more value, you could try to play the goal range. But the draw is where I would lean in terms of the 90 minutes mark. I'm right there with you. I think this is going to be a game that's it might be an individual moment of brilliance, might be a mistake, set pieces. It's going to be maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing game. And I do always wonder, and now Jude Bellingham, no surprise, as he had to be him. It's no shock that he made that amazing bicycle kick, scissor kick, if you will, to put it into extra time. But it did take that moment at the death for them to get to this point. As these games wear on, the pressure is always on England, way more than it's on the Swiss. And I think they will remain comfortable in the discomfort of the game that may not be that aesthetically pleasing.
So the other game on that side of the draw, we don't know yet. It's not been confirmed. That depends what happens between Austria and Turkey. The winner gets the Netherlands. Let's go to the other half of the draw, LME. Spain against Germany. The way Spain have been playing, but Germany as well with a bit of flair, certainly in their opening game, and they've looked all right. Interesting odds there. What takes your fancy?
Well, I like the under 2.5 goals again as well, because I think there might be a little might against might here. Spain, to me, are the favorites to win this whole thing. They are complete. But if you saw that game against Georgia, they sometimes can, rely so much on their possession-centric control that they can forget about the counter, and that's exactly what Georgia did. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but Germany do have the knack and the ability to do that with the likes of Jamal Musiala and Leroy Sané and, Toni Kroos pinging them in deep from the midfield. So it's tricky to think that again. And also, just because of what we have been seeing at the Euros, I don't expect this one to be a heavy hitter when it comes to goals. So the under 2.5 is good. But this is a tough one because obviously the host nation will be heavily supported. But I don't think that will rattle Spain that much. They know exactly who they want to be with Nico Williams on one side, Lamine Yamal on the other one. So if you're asking me about a favorite right now, I'm going with Spain. I think they are the complete package. And Germany, they have shown vulnerabilities specifically in the group stages. And I actually think they were fortunate against Denmark. That thunderstorm helped them because it allowed them to refocus once again. I don't think it's going to happen again. I think Spain's winning that.
I think you get goals if you get an early goal. It's rare that you kind of get a game that meanders along and then suddenly comes to life. So I find this a difficult one, Dallin, to look at as far as the over-under 2.5 goals is concerned. Because what's better, the Spanish and the German attacks or the German and the Spanish defenses? What do you reckon?
Yeah, that's actually, I would lean the other way. And maybe this is me hoping to see a game between these two teams that have a lot of attacking power and have been two of the best, if not the two best teams in the tournament, to go out and play a game that is compelling, that has goals in it. And this, from the odds at least, plus 100, which is even money, 1-1 on your money, is let's say that's the best value, sort of the lowest value in terms of any of the overs of the 3 games that have already been set. Those are other games are plus 160, 130, 140 for the those ranges for the over 2.5. So the odds makers think this one could have some goals in it. As you can see, the favorite is still the under. That said, this is from the odds standpoint too. This is the closest, plus 170 for Germany to win, plus 160 for Spain to win. In terms of both teams qualifying, whether it's over extra time or shootout, minus 120, minus 110. Spain slightly favored. It's basically a coin flip. I think the offenses will show enough. I think we may get an early goal. I believe in these offenses more than I believe in the defenses, and I do think the way in which Spain is playing, these dynamic young wingers, a more vertical presence, they are creating a lot of chances. Will they finish those chances? And will the respective defenses from top to bottom be able to slow down each team's attacking prowess? I'm not sure. I think I'm going to lean toward the offense here. I think that might be a hopeful play. In terms of the other one I would look at too is both teams to score. It's minus 130. That game, if there are goals in it, then yes, both teams will score. So it kind of is a little bit of there's a little juice on that. But I kind of like that play because I think at least both teams do put in the ball in the back and then at least once. And after that, we'll see what happens.
Let me just say one quick thing. Germany have only scored 1 goal in the first half, this whole thing. Aside from, obviously, the Scotland game is different, but after that, just 1 goal in the first half. And that to me says that, yes, they need certain things in the other side to go their way for them to keep going. Now, I granted that these are 2 powerhouses, but I do think that it takes a little bit of time for Germany to get going. And Spain, because they're mostly patient with what they want to do, and facing a very tough German defensive line, it could backfire. But this is either you're going all out with what Dallin is saying or what I'm saying, but there's not going to be nothing in the middle. Should be a very intriguing matchup.
We will agree on this, though, LME, because I do think if this tournament was not in Germany, I would be picking Spain without a doubt to win this game. So that I think does factor here. So as we get closer to the game, I may just I may just lay some money on Spain because I do think they are the superior side front to back. And if this wasn't against a home team, I do think the odds may reflect a little different as well.
Yeah, the home support definitely is helpful. Yeah.
I think when you have two teams whose attacks are better than their defenses, in all essence, and I think the Spanish is because they've got so much talent, that both teams to score bet is certainly something. Because in a knockout stage game, it's not like a league game or anything. In a knockout stage game, if one's ahead with 10 to go, the other's going to have a go. There's going to be space. So yeah, who's going to go through? No idea, but both teams to score for that one. Now the other one on that end of the draw. This is tough to predict because France should be better than Portugal. But France haven't scored from open play yet. They've scored 2 own goals, or they've had 2 own goals scored for them, and Kylian Mbappe's penalty. And the Portuguese centre-forward hasn't scored yet in this tournament, despite taking 813 free kicks in their game yesterday. So, France favourites, under 2.5 goals is minus 200. If you had seen this, Dallin, and you were pricing this up before the tournament began, and you had no idea how Portugal and France were going to get on, there is no way that was a minus 200. But the way things have gone, is that a fair price?
That's a great point, Mark. There is zero shot I would ever thought that would be the number before this tournament, knowing all the attacking talent and all the players on both sides and pedigree and all this other stuff. But yeah, how both teams have played, that number's right. And it's hard to argue otherwise. Now, the thing that people need to remember about France, obviously, is they are a structured team that is usually really difficult to score on, going back to the 2018 World Cup. This is kind of how Deschamps has played this game. This team counters at an electric level. They're resolute in the back. They don't make a ton of mistakes, and it's hard to score on them. So that's not surprising. But with all the talent on both sides, you would assume we would see goals. I don't think you're going to. That laying $200 to win 100, 50% of my money, I don't like that play. I would go both teams to score no in this game. Gets you to minus 130 on ESPN Bet and other books. I'm sure that has a similar pricing out there. So there's some juice on it, but I do think we look at another real cagey game with this one. I am interested to see like Ronaldo's just general vibe, but not about the tears and stuff. Like he was so frustrated in that game and taking free kicks from, horrific angles and just blasting it into the stands. That was like the first half. Like his general vibe as the leader of this team, you got to have a little more. You got to relax a little bit. They got to go out and play together as a team, and he can't just be. I feel like there's like a tight and a tension. He's waiting to explode and score a goal. He is the leader of this team for good or bad or worse, good, bad or different. Like he has to be a guy that kind of leads them in a way that's not going to be as obviously frustrated, because the French are going to frustrate you through the course of the game. It's not going to be easy to find space for him. It's not going to be easy for have attempts for him. So I think this game will be. It'll be one of those ones built up because the names of the brands and the countries and their histories and their players in the field. But ultimately, I don't think it's really going to deliver some fireworks. So both teams to score no is my play.
LME, just going to deviate slightly from the odds because the last couple of days, Mark Ogden has joined us. And Mark put out a tweet yesterday, which right now is sitting on nearly 969,000 views, people who've watched or looked at this tweet. Tell me what you think of what Mark says here. This is to do with yesterday and Ronaldo. The Ronaldo show is becoming ridiculous now. Great player, one of the absolute best ever. But this is not an under-10s game where the greedy kid gets to take all the free kicks and miss all the chances. Is he a help or a hindrance to this Portugal side, LME?
Well, let me just say I retweeted that by Mark Ogden because I totally agree. And Dallin, what he said is also true. There are two factors here. 39-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo and what he has given to the game in Portugal, fantastic, great stuff. But him starting this game, him playing 90 minutes, him deciding to take every single free kick when the probabilities of him scoring now are not as good when you have actually other players that can maybe do something else. Him doing all of that is an absolute obstacle on Portugal, and that's why you saw that struggle they had, and it took a heroic Diogo Costa to get them through. It's absolutely inconceivable to me. And again, I am not even blaming Cristiano Ronaldo. This is a question mark on Roberto Martinez. Why are you starting him? Why are you playing him for so long? Why are you scared of him? Because clearly that's it. He is scared of the reputation. He's scared of the backlash. And it's not helping Portugal. And also, you're going to the 60th, 70th minute. He's clearly not helping, right? He's also already missed a penalty. Dallin's already talked about the emotional turmoil that he suffered after missing that. You've got Pedro Neto on your side. You've got González Ramos on there, and you're not starting him. I mean, and you're not taking him off. There is nothing to do with the history and what he's done. It's now 39-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo. You have to really think about what you want to do with him. Do you put him in late in the game? And if you start him, you better hope that it's helping your team. Because the moment it isn't, who are you serving right now? Ronaldo or Portugal? It's a big one for Roberto Martinez.
Well, this is the thing. And that's where, like, it seemed like the writing was on the wall, obviously, when Santos benches him at the last World Cup. And Ramos has the hat trick. And, like, it seems like we're moving on. And there are other options. There are very good players there that can score goals and make plays. And you can make an argument that this team could play better, especially defensively, with him not in the lineup if they wanted to play in a different style. But Martinez he's hitched his wagon to him. I mean, yesterday's press conference, just lauding him for his leadership and how great Cristiano is and all these different things, it's not going away. And I do think it's like it's a little bit of cutting off your nose to spite your face. Yes, he's one of the greatest players of all time, but he is 39 years old. And he's not the same player, and I'm not sure he has the same effect on this team when you have other options there. So to not even look at them, and I thought this was really interesting, the Georgia game, when they're already through. They know they won that group. And yes, they lost to Georgia. But Ronaldo did start. And he started him, I'm sure, because Ronaldo wanted to start. Because if he doesn't, and Ramos has a brace, or somebody, like guys step up, and they win that game, that calls into question, just like it did in Qatar, should he be in this lineup or not? And I'm sure he didn't want that to happen. Is that about him, or is that about the squad? That's about him. And that's where I think this is a problem that Martinez is not going to address. This guy, he's going to start. He's probably going to log 90, and he may log 120 again. And I don't know if I don't think it's going to help you against France. And that's unfortunate that he is not willing to stand up to a star player. And not even stand up to it. What is the best for the club? What is the best for your squad? What is the best for this country? I'm not sure I don't think it's Ronaldo for 90, definitely not for $120, but I don't think it's going to change.
No, you can say stand up to him. He's not standing up to him. He's not doing that. And by the way, like, it's the same issue that I had, and England fans were yelling at me for this. Like, Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane in the same lineup doesn't work. When you put Ronaldo in there, you completely nullify Rafa Leao's productivity. The same with Bruno Fernandes. The same with Bernardo Silva. So what are you doing? So if you want to win this game against France, by the way, like, you better wake up.
Let's wrap it up with the overall odds to win the Euros. And again, if you didn't know the draw, or it was just a straight shootout, there's no way England would be the favourites. But they are. They are. And they're 72 right now, plus 350. So we're looking for value there. Now, we've got the top 5 in the betting. I don't think the value is there. I think the value is Austria to reach the final. That would certainly be the value, because they've still got to play Turkey in a game that's coming up in about 45 minutes. So, Dallin, is there anything there that takes your fancy at these odds from ESPN Bet?
Well, Mark, you got my Austrian. So yes, that is the one that I like too. With the finals play for them, you're getting that at I think 4 or 5 to 1 right now. When you look at the Netherlands here, because of their draw, if you're going to give me plus 290 to get to the final, okay, I could look at that. Germany, same way, plus 285 to get to the final in terms of the number, but it's not great. And England is definitely not going to get any of my money. I just don't think there is not the value. I don't think it's going to pan out the same way that you want. And they've repeatedly shown and underperformed who they are at this time. I do think Spain is the best team. I think they are the team that could win this thing. But having to play the home team right now and next round, and then having to play France or Portugal, granted as poorly as either one of those teams have played, we still know what they may be capable of. And then having to win a third game, it seems like a long road to hoe for me to pick a winner from that left side of the bracket right now. Whereas I think a finalist on the right side of the bracket, Netherlands, may be the best value outside of Austria.
Yeah, and those odds accurate before Romania against Netherlands, so they have been nibbled in a little bit. LME, if you were to throw a few bottles of Cusqueña beer instead of buying that, put some money on a team instead, where would you put your money on?
Well, my Cusqueñas are very precious, MD, so I have to really think carefully about this one. But I want to ask Dallin, what Switzerland to make it to the final, what kind of odds are there? Because I'm looking at this bracket and, like, it is not unrealistic for them to beat England. And then after that, they face the winner of Netherlands or Austria or Turkey, and I see them winning that too. So what would the chances of that happening? Because Austria, I'm with you, boys. I love the Austria game, but Switzerland, they are so good. People need to talk about them more. And if they beat England, like, this is a doable journey to the final.
To answer your question, before these games kicked off, because once the games kick off, they do pull these all down. So plus 350 was Switzerland yesterday, so to get to the final. So good value, not great, but I think you're seeing at the same time the same thing that the odds makers are seeing, that this team has a really good path to get there. So 3.5 times your money for the Swiss to get to the final. And again, folks, you do have to remember in the Euros every year it is a guarantee you are going to get a surprise team in the semis. It has happened to last since 92, really. I mean, Denmark won it. You can go back further than that. But like there are so many surprises in this tournament in particular. So if you are going to throw some money around, to LME's point, look for some value, look for some teams you don't expect. We've talked about Austria a lot, talked about Switzerland, because it seems inevitable. Somebody's getting to a semifinal, and now because how the bracket shaped up, maybe somebody's getting to a final that we definitely wouldn't have picked before the tournament. That still gives you decent value.
Now, I'll give you the odds that there is a British bookie right now offering 9-2 plus 450 on Switzerland to reach the final, if that floats your boat. And that's in the UK, where most of the money is on England. So it's weight of cash. That's why everyone's asking, how can England be favourites? Because there's more money on them than there is.
I'm texting my cousin right now, MD. Like, are you kidding? That's
that's how every tournament starts, guys. Bear in mind, every tournament England is 1 or 2 because of the weight of the country in terms of the money put on them. And now that they've had some results in recent years too, you can get people that are casual bettors being like, I could see them doing this. That's why they are always 1 or 2. It's not because they're going to win it, because they haven't done it since '66. It's because of the money pouring in and trying to keep the balance there for the bookies.
So ESPN FC Live is back on Friday with the first quarter final. Remember, ESPN FC every single night. Before we go, one country as it stands right now to win the Euros. LME, you first.
Spain.
Darling.
Yeah, odds aside, I will say Spain, but that's a tough road to hoe.
There you go. Well, we'll see if they're right as the quarterfinals begin on Friday. That's when we return to Scotland.
What you got?
Oh, Kaka. Who have I got? I think it's from the top half. I'll be contrarian. I'll go France. There you go. I haven't liked them so far, but I think at the odds, they probably represent the value.
I love their best striker, Mr. Ronaldo. He's amazing. I think Todd Bowley's going to make a 700 million offer, I think, for Mr. Ronaldo.
This is the hardest thing to do on this show, is make sure we can get out on time. We're already 5 minutes. You want a final word, Dallin?
Yeah, who would have thought contrarian was the French to win it all, by the way, 3 weeks ago.
Exactly, right? We'll see you all again on Friday. Bye for now.